All right, folks, coming up on Roland Unfiltered for Wednesday, March 6, 2019. Guess who's back in prison or jail one day after his interview with Gayle King? That's right, R. Kelly. He owes $160,000 in child support. Yep, back in Cook County Jail. We'll give you those details. Also, Democrats in the House were set to pass an indirect rebuke of Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Well, today, a lot of Democrats got in that ass of Nancy Pelosi, so they backed off. Now, it's a little different statement. We'll tell you exactly what is now going to say. A black woman gets elected to the legislature in nearly all-white Vermont. But all of a sudden, a white supremacist stalks her, forces her to resign, and the white folks pretty much didn't do anything to help her. Wait until you hear this interview right here, Roland Unfiltered. The financial and housing crisis back in 2008 wiped out 53% of black wealth in America. Now black home ownership is way down. We'll talk with Elena McCargo, Vice President of Housing Finance Policy at the Urban Institute, on what we can do to fix that. And also, y'all know how we focus on crazy-ass white people on this show. Alabama high school students say we black folks belong in concentration camps. Yes, there's video, and California rich white kids make a swastika out of red cups. Okay? And in Galveston, a cop is offended by swearing and arrests a black high school track star. And guess what? Big-ass hat Sheriff David Clarke, former sheriff of Milwaukee. Looks like Fox News is no longer booking him on their show, and he no longer has his job with the Donald Trump PAC. Really? Sheriff, you know I got a couple of words for you. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
All right, y'all, guess who is back in jail? That's right, R. Kelly. He is in the Cook County Jail as we speak, turning himself in today because, he owes some back child support, about $160,000. Yeah, $160,000. That's what he actually owes his wife for their children. So, Polly R. Kelly. Now, of course, he had an interview yesterday with Gayle King, though. But right now, though, I want to play for you. This is R. Kelly's publicist, Daryl Johnson, speaking outside of court. Do you see my iPad, Henry? If so, I want you to go ahead. So here we go. This is Daryl Johnson, R. Kelly's publicist, talking about him being back in jail.
Yeah, he had back pay of $161,037, and we were coming expecting that he was going to come and make an arrangement, but they wanted the entire amount.
So what happened?
Where is he right now?
What happened after that?
Well, the reason he can't pay, as you know, he hadn't worked in a long time. He can't book shows. He can't do anything. There's been a lot of things going on in Mr. Kelly's life, lawsuits, all the things that are happening, and he just didn't have the money, and so he didn't have $161,000. So we tried to work some things out. It didn't work out, and hopefully we'll get him out by Wednesday next week.
Can you talk about his state of mind right now, how he's feeling about this right now?
Well, he came here expecting to leave. That's what he came to expect to leave. He didn't come here to go to jail.
Wednesday of next week. Finish that.
He came here in good spirit, expecting to walk out. He came here to make some arrangements, what he had. I think it was $50,000 or $60,000 that he was willing to pay. And in the end, nobody wins. The kids still don't have any money. So at the end of the day, he's locked up. Andrea and her kids, they still don't have anything.
Speak about his mood as soon as he found out he was going back to jail.
Depressed, deflated,
Okay.
upset.
Let me help y'all out with something. First of all, that video from the Chicago Sun-Times. If the court tells you you got to pay $161,000 by a certain date, that means that your opportunity to negotiate a payment plan has passed, which means that you should have actually done that several months ago. Say I'm gonna put $50,000, $60,000 down on it, and I'm left with $110,000. That ain't quite how the court system works. I don't know many courts you can go to in the country. They go, how much can I put down on it? And the court gonna say, all of it. And so to think that you were gonna roll up to the Cook County courthouse and put down 50 or 60 grand when you owe 161,000, dog, you done lost your mind. Okay, Scott Bolden, I was supposed to introduce the panel right now, but his ass want to talk so bad. So Scott Bolden, attorney, go ahead, Scott, what you want?
I just want to correct you on something.
Go ahead.
The negotiation, you're right, should have been done a long time ago.
Probably was done. He ignored it.
But you, without negotiation on the phone by your lawyer to get assurances that they're going to take the 50 or 60, you should do that before you go down.
Okay, here's the
not
problem.
After you go down.
Here's the problem. The court told his ass 2 weeks ago, pay this amount by this date.
Or you going to jail.
Right. They didn't say, come up with a little something on it that you go back home. So he was stupid showing up to the jailhouse, to the courthouse, thinking I can put 50, 60,000 and I'm gonna go back to the crib.
And they took the 50 or 60 grand too. So
they
the
took
kids
it.
do have something.
Right. So now his team got a week to come up with another 100,000. So maybe they're gonna call that woman with the daycare center who bailed him out last time. Now, of course, this came a day after R. Kelly sat down with Gayle King of CBS this morning in a quite strange interview. Now, they did not run the whole interview this morning on CBS this morning. CBS plans on doing an R. Kelly special Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, to play more of the interview. That's called Milk That Sucker for ratings. So here, if you missed it, here is some of Gayle King's quite riveting interview with Robert Kelly. Check it out.
It's riveting.
That you have never held anybody against their will.
I don't need to. Why would I?
Well,
How stupid would it be for R. Kelly, with all I've been through in my way past, to hold somebody, let alone 4, 5, 6, 50, you said. Why, how stupid would I be to do that?
I didn't say you were
holding... That's stupid, guys.
I didn't...
Is this camera on me?
Yes, it's on.
That's stupid. Use your common sense. Don't forget the blogs. Forget how you feel about me. Hate me if you want to, love me if you want, but just use your common sense. How stupid would it be for me to, with my crazy past and what I've been through, oh, right now I just think I need to be a monster and hold girls against their will, chain them up in my basement, and don't let them eat and don't let them out unless they need some shoes down the street from their uncle. Robert, stop it. Y'all quit playing. Quit playing. Robert. I didn't do this stuff. This is not me. I'm fighting for my life. Y'all killing me with this. I gave y'all 30 years of my career.
Robert.
30 years of my career. Y'all trying to kill me. You're killing me, man. This is not about music. I'm trying to have a relationship with my kids, and I can't do it. Y'all just don't want to believe the truth. You don't want to believe it.
At this point, we briefly paused the interview to give Kelly a moment. His publicist helped calm him down.
I hope this camera keep going.
No, we're going to let the camera keep rolling.
This is not, doesn't even make sense. Why would I hold all these women? Their mothers and fathers told me, we're going to destroy your career.
But Kelly's emotions remained raw.
It's real girls out there missing. It's real young girls out there being abducted, being raped, okay? They really are on chains. They really do have chains on their wrists, and they can't get out.
Robert,
and they're ending up buried in debt.
Robert, we have to have a conversation. Really, I don't want you just ranting at the camera.
I came here for them to hear me talk.
But
I need help.
What kind of help?
This is the kind of help I need.
Yes, what kind of help?
I need somebody to help me not have a big heart. Because my heart is so big. People betray me, and I keep forgiving them.
You sound like you're playing the victim here. You sound like R. Kelly, you do. When I listen to you, it does sound like you're playing the victim
I'm just telling the truth. And the reason I'm emotional,
Robert,
and I apologize for that, is because this is the first time I was able to say something. Yeah. I've said nothing.
Look, let's see it.
Did y'all see that crazy ass interview? Woo! It's a whole lot. It's a whole lot to unpack there. First of all, Gayle King was very calm as R. Kelly was losing his mind. So anyway, let's get to it. Of course, again, Scott Bolden, the former chair, National Bar Association, PAC. We got Lauren Victoria Burke, who's also communications director for Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax of Virginia. We got Shmichael Singleton, contributing host, Consider It on Vox Media. Here's the first thing. Who in their right mind would say, go do an interview?
Yeah, see, interview prep obviously is really important to say.
No, not interview prep.
He shouldn't have done an interview.
How about
shouldn't have done it.
No interview.
But the fact that he obviously is facing criminal charges would mean that not having an interview would probably be a really good idea.
Because every statement you give in the interview
can be used in court.
Two things, used in court, but also you still have a jury that gets picked. And so every action you take has an impact on your case, Scott.
Maybe, but let me tell you.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Probably.
Well,
hell yes.
But what I'm really getting at is this issue of whether he should have done the interview or not. Okay, so when you get a client like him, you do your investigation, and you should, and you don't let him do an interview until you're convinced of the investigation is complete and you know exactly kind of where you're going to be. It isn't like he's doing a legal interview with the feds. Secondly, you got to prep him to be under control, and also what's his demeanor going to be like. And so you dry run him 2 or 3 times, right? And then you let him go. And then you sit with him in the interview. You don't let him do that interview by himself with Gayle. And then after all of that, then you release that. And the reason you release that is because back in the day, it was be quiet and try it in court. Now, in the times of social media and messaging and 2019, I think in a lot of cases, defendants, high-profile cases, defendants, they've got to get their story out. Otherwise, the story's going to be told for them.
Exactly.
And so as a legal, hold on, as a legal advisor, as a lawyer for a number of high-profile clients, I now very often consider them speaking directly to the media through social media or the public if they're ready and if they're well prepped.
The problem is if you don't talk, everybody thinks you're guilty.
Exactly.
And so what you just said is exactly right. We don't live in the 1950s and 40s. Right. And now we have attorneys on the other side who want to put stuff out there, right? And if you don't react to it, the playing field is clear for them.
But, Michael, here's the difference.
Here's
the difference. First of all, you don't have the Cook County State's Attorney putting stuff out. That's one.
Right.
What you also
have them leaking it.
One second.
The feds on
leak stuff.
This is not feds. This is Cook County.
They leak.
It's Cook County.
They'll leak.
But here's the other issue that, first of all, they've already laid the proffer out. Here's the other thing that you have with R. Kelly that's different. He's done horrible interviews in the past.
Right. This is the first time.
And if you heard how when Gayle King asked the question, he never said.
Never answered.
He was like, it's wrong. I mean, it's right.
You can't double jeopardy me, is what he said.
No, R. Kelly. It's not double jeopardy.
Right.
When you were charged with child pornography in that case, and they've now filed different charges against you, that's not double jeopardy.
Well, remember the interview with Torrey
and
BET
he is
was
illiterate. He can't read.
Well, right, he can't read. But the difference is, and I agree with Scott that when you do have high-profile clients, depending on the dynamics, it is great to try to argue in the public circle, if you will. But the difference with R. Kelly, Roland, is that we're in the midst of Me Too now. this is a very different dynamic. That documentary came out and it was extremely damaging to R. Kelly. This isn't, well, wait a minute, but this isn't a new thing with him. So there are decades, or 2 decades at least, of history of women coming out saying this has occurred, or we know leaks have gone out from folks who worked with Kelly. So I don't think he should have done the interview at all, and he shouldn't do any more interviews going forward.
You also need to be able, even in interviews, control your emotions.
Right.
Of course.
Right.
And when you lose it to that degree,
right,
anything that you thought you could have achieved that was positive, you sitting there like, oh, Lord, this fool.
Everybody watched that interview, Scott, and they said he's guilty. They saw his behavior and said he's guilty.
You're talking about 2 different things. You're talking about whether he should have done the interview, and that's one strategy. Hold on, strategy. But now, the interview itself was horrible, and you're absolutely right about that.
Which is why you don't
do the interview. You don't trust him to do a great interview, and you're right. He's done bad interviews.
You bring
us together. Bring a straitjacket with you.
3 of y'all lawyers. Do you trust him doing the interview?
No.
Lauren, do you trust him doing the interview?
The question is if he can hold himself together, which he can't.
No, we're not talking hypothetical.
If you prep him the right way,
Lauren, do you actually think R. Kelly can hold himself together?
If a person can hold themselves together, the answer would be yes. Things are tried in the court of public opinion.
Lauren.
That's the fact.
Lauren, based upon what we know about R. Kelly.
But what do you... People want to hear from him.
Right.
Okay.
But they want to hear from him. They don't want to hear that from him.
I mean, for him to know.
Roland, let's say R. Kelly could have been well prepped to give a great interview.
Right.
My next question would have been, what are you going to possibly accomplish? What can he say? What can he say?
The public will hear him deny it. And you
come on, Scott. Deny what? That he didn't do it?
You don't know how powerful a denial is to a jury. And he's talking,
nobody believes this guy didn't do it.
It doesn't matter. He's still, in every trial I've tried, every case I've tried, the jury, no matter how overwhelming the evidence is, right? He's talking to a potential jury pool, and they want to hear him deny it. Now, they may still
Let me tell y'all something.
Don't get me wrong, but it was important for them to hear the denial.
Let me tell y'all
whether it's true or not.
All that stuff Scott's saying right now, all that stuff Scott's saying right now is absolutely irrelevant.
I don't agree with it.
But I've tried 100 cases.
One second.
No,
you can try. Hold up.
This is a different.
Roland. Here's my question. Here's my question, Roland. How could it get worse?
Oh,
he got nothing to lose. He's got nothing to lose.
No.
More women.
No, wait.
More tapes.
No. I will take you back to the previous case. The previous case, in terms of that particular tape, they thought they were going to be found guilty. He got off.
Right.
The deal is, you don't add anything new to it. When you talk about the interview he did with Teray when he was asked the question, sleeping with underage girls, and was like, how old?
Right.
So if you go back and listen to
the fair question,
but you go back and listen
to the Aisha interview.
If you go back and listen to the first question of Gayle King, which was sort of like, have you slept with underage girls? I got a past, and why you bringing my past up? I'm going, bruh, that ain't quite the answer. I mean, he literally, I heard the first minute, I said,
that's the prep part.
I said, did he just, Scott, you can talk prep all you want to.
So, prep, would he have lied, Scott?
You're dealing with a guy who is also illiterate.
What do you say?
He can't read.
It's not illegal to lie in a media interview.
But could it not be used?
The only plus side for him doing the interview was to do a public denial and to hear it from him.
He never denied anything, Scott.
Well, he should have. He would have been prepped.
I got it. Here's the whole deal, y'all.
Denied himself in
your next interview. Get prepped.
Right now, this guy talking his lawyer talk.
That was a disaster.
I'm gonna talk common sense. He looked like a damn fool doing the interview.
He did, but he wasn't prepped.
I'm telling you right now, y'all. I'm telling you right now. Kales, if you get out from the child support deal, you better go to McDonald's as much as you can, because I'm telling you right now.
Who's his attorney?
You're going to prison. All right, y'all, let's talk about here. He going to jail, y'all. I'm telling you right now. Put the money on the table. He going to jail. He needed to. All right, let's talk about what's happening here in Washington. Ain't no maybe. He going to jail.
Memories fade. And women are being paid. You don't know.
All right,
wait till you see the evidence. Wait for the evidence.
All right. Victim shaming now.
No,
I'm not victim shaming. I'm saying part of his defense is denial.
Sure, Michael, you ain't got to go there.
Stand and deny.
Sure, Michael, you ain't got to go there.
You convicted him already? My goodness gracious.
It's 2 words.
Thank goodness we've got due process and a court of law.
Believe that.
Okay.
His ass goes to jail.
Let's just hang him.
Y'all, let's talk about.
Let's just hang him and put him away. Throw away the key.
We ain't gonna hang him.
Let's put him in jail and throw away the key with no trial.
We're gonna be in prison. All right, y'all. Last night, of course, Democrats were supposed to take up a resolution against Ilhan Omar, Congresswoman from Minnesota, where they say that she made anti-Semitic remarks. Now, the House, they had some issues because, let's just say, the House Democratic Caucus erupted today against Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, led by members of the CBC. Ilhan Omar is a member of the CBC. The CBC, progressives, and new members pushed back hard against Democratic leadership and Jewish members, saying they wanted no resolution or a wider one condemning all forms of bigotry. Now that resolution is off the table, and Republicans, of course, are hitting Ilhan very hard. This, got our panel here, Michael, this is an example of Democrats. Let's just be real clear. Democrats always want to, okay, it's a purity thing. We're going to show you how to do the right thing. Republicans don't care. Okay, Steve King is still in Congress.
He is.
And the reality is, it's a lot of people who are saying, I'm sorry, this is not anti-Semitic. Senator Bernie Sanders is out today saying the attacks of her are wrong and this wasn't anti-Semitic. And so
I don't agree with
you got House Democrats who are saying, don't go there.
Well, look, I mean, is it hypocritical for Republicans considering Steve King? Sure.
And the president.
But
and Steve Scalise.
Wait, I'm not making an excuse, Roland, but what I am saying is that I think you can critique our policy with Israel. You can criticize Benjamin Netanyahu. You can criticize the settlements without having characterizations of Israel or Jewish people that some folks may find offense to. And I think when you're a member of Congress, I've worked for a lot of politicians, you have to be very, very careful with your words. Everything matters. And for someone like her, she has a great platform. She's defied a lot of odds, been only one of 2 Muslim American women in Congress. I think she has to be even more careful because the spotlight is so much on her.
There's a difference
and I'm not taking away from her right to critique and criticize.
But the point, though, is the reality is how if you make a criticism of Israel, it is immediately spun as anti-Semitic.
But Roland, you can make the criticism of Israel without saying, oh, you must have pledged allegiance to the Israeli state or something. Or using some type of tropes or something. I mean, you can critique something without...
Hold up. I actually read, and I read this last night, because you used the word pledge allegiance. Okay.
What exactly did she say?
Hold up. I'm going to read here. This is Representative Juan Vargas, okay? California 51. This is what he said. Quote, "It is disturbing that Representative Omar continues to perpetuate hurtful anti-Semitic stereotypes that misrepresent our Jewish community. Additionally, questioning support for the U.S.-Israel relationship is unacceptable." Unacceptable?
Well, now that I don't. I agree with the first part of the statement, but not the second part. I mean, you should have members who have the ability to criticize our foreign policy relationships with various countries.
But he's saying unacceptable. And this is my point. Lauren, there is this view that if you are an American politician, especially a Democrat, you cannot criticize anything dealing with Israel and U.S. relationships.
Yeah. And as somebody who was Andre Carson's communications director, the second Muslim member of Congress, I can tell you that he didn't have to say anything to get death threats. He didn't have to say anything to be criticized. He didn't have to say anything to be called anti-Semitic. I suspect that long before any of this happened with Congresswoman Omar, she was likely getting some of the same treatment because we saw a lot of it on social media before any of this happened. So nobody wants to talk about that part of it, like the violence that these members who are in a religious minority group in Congress get. So I think that that's something that needs to be discussed. You know, the fact that a lot of members of the Black Caucus brought up the fact today in the Democratic caucus and in their own meeting that there have been a lot of raise in hate speech in the last 2-3 years.
From the floor.
From the floor of Congress, you know, from the White House. Okay, so their point was, why aren't we bringing that up in a resolution? You know, why aren't we talking about the whole
we
piece?
should. No, I agree.
So,
you can't just target one person and not take into account all of the other individuals.
And some of these members wanted to put Ms. Omar's name, Congresswoman Omar's name, in the resolution, which is a highly unusual move.
Now, what we have here, we have Republicans who do not like a Muslim member of Congress. There are people who've been coming after her from day one. You have people who call her anti-Semitic remark when she said it's about the Benjamins, and it's like, oh, you're saying, in terms of Jews and money, yet there's video of Donald Trump, we played it last night, standing before Jewish Republicans, I don't need your money, I don't need your money, and they laugh, and then you people love to negotiate, and he literally said that. You have Jim Jordan using a $sign in reference to a tweet talking about Tom Steyer, okay? Yeah. Billionaire.
If she had done that,
George Soros as well. And so, but it's really interesting. But again, though, see, those are the little games being played here. So I see why CBC members and progressives and freshmen are pushing back by saying, wait a minute, hold up. Right. If it's going to be one standard, make it one standard. Right. It's not going to be a different standard.
And one level of accountability. You forget that Donald Trump didn't want black people counting his money either, and he only wanted people who had yarmulkes on the back of their heads counting his money, which was disclosed during the campaign. It really is about accountability, and it's easy to be about accountability because we ought to be denouncing all religious hatred, racial hatred, homophobic, Islamophobic hatred, and put all that in the resolution. I tend to agree with my Morehouse brother here, Shermichael, in believing that I do think elected officials have to be more responsible. And when I say more responsible, what I mean is if your words matter and you want to make a statement that you know would be subject, rightfully or wrongfully, to that type of criticism, you know, you got to hold back or say it a different way. You got to be real careful because you know that's out there. One, you're a Muslim, and two, when she said all about the Benjamins, she was talking about, she clarified and apologized, she was really talking about the money that's influenced politics from all interests, right?
Got it.
But you can't be irresponsible like that. You got to be responsible when you're talking about something that could be construed as anti-Semitism.
Now the question is,
what recognize that her voice, of course, in this moment, as a member of a religious minority group in Congress, is amplified. But let's face it, the minute that she arrived. The minute that she arrived,
got to know that.
She's got to know that. But wait a minute, you can't blame her for the fact that the minute she arrived, that right-wing social media was on her. Okay, I'm just saying.
But that doesn't change the dynamic of her needing to be very careful in her articulation of her position.
Hell, if they want to be on her, be on Steve King.
No, she can't.
She can say the same thing.
I'm not making an excuse for. No.
Steve King has been doing this for 10 years, and nobody says anything on the right side.
Bringing up Steve King does not inexcuse someone else from making the same mistake. So why are you bringing him up?
I'm bringing it up because everybody's silent on the right. Everybody's silent on the right for Steve King.
You haven't heard me excuse Steve King.
I'm asking you. Everybody's silent about Trump and Steve King.
Every Republican? You've quantified this? I mean, I'm just being honest. I mean, you can't make a blatant statement that said everybody.
What have you said about
Steve King? A whole lot. I've been on television on MSNBC for. Are you kidding me, Lauren? Where have you been? I'm being honest. Have you been sleeping under a rock?
So you've said as much about Steve King and Trump as
you said about Omar. Are you kidding me? Oh, yes. Check Raw's story. You can Google it.
Good for you.
I'm just being honest.
Tell your friends in your party. Tell your friends in your party.
I'm just being honest.
Right? You guys want to get crazy about Omar.
And
then you get silent about stuff that goes on in Charlottesville.
Okay, I'll let you finish. Okay, can I talk now?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, let me say this. You cannot say that every single conservative have jumped on this bandwagon of attacking this woman. You can't say that with 100% certainty.
I can't say that with every single one.
Wait,
you're right. Yeah,
no, you can't. I mean, come on. Let's just be logical about it.
We can't say every single one of anything.
But, okay, going to my second point. To bring up Steve King as an attempt to excuse someone else's behavior is a logical fallacy.
But I don't think she was bringing it up to excuse it. I think she was saying both are accountable, have to be accountable for their bad statements.
On certain things, and then you want to get crazy about this. That's what I'm saying.
That's a fair comparison.
That's a fair comparative. With the point that you can have
both are wrong.
Standard that
both could be wrong, right?
What I'm saying is
accountability.
Be even.
Put everybody
be even in your accountability.
Lauren, I'm not saying that the standards shouldn't be applicable to both sides.
Good.
That's not what I'm saying. I mean, that wouldn't be a logical argument to make. What I'm simply saying is to say, well, Republicans, because you guys haven't done this, then we should completely ignore what other people are doing. I don't think that's logical, and I don't think that's fair.
Who has been the impetus of hate speech for the last 2 years? President of the United States?
Sure.
Or Ilhan Omar? Who's been the bigger? Who's been the bigger impetus?
You're not going to get me to disagree with you. Good. So I don't understand the premise of your point.
We're good then. We're good then. I'm glad you're not.
We're good, Roland.
Well,
what else do you have?
Again, as I said last night, I am still waiting for Ronna McDaniel, Romney.
You're definitely not getting that.
I'm still waiting for the Republican National Committee to condemn the West Virginia Republican Party for putting Representative Ilhan Omar's photo on a poster linking her to 9/11. If the Republican Party, if any member in the GOP in Congress has any decency, they would call for the condemnation of the West Virginia Republican Party. They would call on the governor of West Virginia, Republican, to condemn them. They would call on the Republican United States Senator to condemn them. They have absolutely no credibility whatsoever when that poster there was put together and Republicans and the party and Donald Trump, who leads the party, hasn't said a damn thing. Folks, Amber Evans, the sister who's been missing in Columbus, Ohio for about 38 days. She is still missing. She went missing on January 28th. We talked about her mother, and still there's no news to report. If you have any information regarding Amber Evans, please call the Columbus Police Department Missing Persons Unit at 614-645-4624, 614-645-4624. All right, folks, going to go to a break right now, and we'll be back. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered, talking about crazy-ass white people in just a moment. Hey, fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. All right, folks, of course, a lot of people are getting ready, of course, in 2019 to improve their look. A lot of people are getting ready for beach season. You'll never see Scott in his Speedos. And, of course, all about golf season as well. And so, again, that's my whole deal. So one of the reasons why I participated in the D-Herbs Full Body Cleanse, 20 days. No, just fresh fruits, vegetables, nuts, and water. Oh, my goodness. But it also, again, changes your mindset in terms of how you approach food as well. And so there are 27 different cleanses you can be involved in. And so all you got to do is pick which one you want. So what you should do is go to dherbs.com. dherbs.com and use the promo code Roland upon checkout. Or you can call 1-866-4-DHERBS, 1-866-4-DHERBS. Now, again, for some people, it's about losing weight. It's about getting rid of some of those stubborn pounds. For other people, it's also just about, trying to regain more energy. Whatever your reason, you can try the D-Herbs Full Body Cleanse. Again, you can go to dherbs.com or call 1-866-4-DHERBS, 1-866-4-DHERBS, and use the promo code Roland upon checkout. And we certainly appreciate the folks at D-Herbs being a partner with us here at Roland Martin Unfiltered. Hey, fam, want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered, the blackest show on all of digital, cable, and broadcast. Check out our audio podcast. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Press play. All right, folks, during the home foreclosure crisis from 2007 to present day, black folks lost 53% of all of our wealth as a result of the home foreclosure crisis. Elizabeth Warren was on my TV One show, Washington Watch, a decade ago. She said it would take at least 2 generations for African Americans to recoup that money. Now, in America, white home ownership in 2017, 72.9%. Black home ownership dropped to 43% in 2017. And of course, I believe the high rate, see, even though we say that it wasn't from a high of 50% in 2004, actually, I believe the highest we got to black homeownership rate was around 60.2. It was not that high. And so I've seen different studies there. So the question is, where do we stand now? Now, here's the piece. When you talk about building wealth, you talk about what can you pass on, Americans, historically, has been about housing. Now, let's look at, again, household wealth. The average white family, $162,800. Average black family, $16,300. When you look at the period of 2007 to 2017, the reality is African Americans, white folks lost a smaller percentage of wealth than anybody else. Then it was Asian, Latinos, African Americans lost more than anybody else. And so for many of us, our only asset is at home. And also, let's talk about small business loans. 2014, the Wall Street Journal did an article that said that in 2013, $23.09 billion in small business loans were handed out. African Americans got $385 million of that $23.09 billion. Now, I gave the Obama administration hell over that to say what were they going to do to actually improve those numbers. Why did that matter? Because for those black businesses who were applying for loans, only thing they had as collateral was their home. Right. So no home, no loan, no business. How major is this? The home foreclosure crisis essentially wiped out the gains achieved since the 1968 Fair Housing Act. That, folks, gives you an understanding of what's going on. The Urban Institute think tank has been studying this phenomenon, and joining us right now is Elena McCargo, Vice President of Housing Finance Policy at the Urban Institute. And so, Elena, what exactly caused this? Was it a function of, and we've heard this, black folks being forced into subprime mortgages, or was it a function of just simply a housing bubble that just impacted everybody?
It's multifaceted, so it's not just one of those things. It's a little bit of both of those things. There is, I mean, it's a tragic story, actually. The run-up to the foreclosure crisis was a period of incredible gains in homeownership for black and Latino families. A lot of that was also happening at the same time that home prices were on the rise, and people were buying at the height of the market. And when you look at sort of what was going on in 2004, 5, and 6, there was a great deal of toxic mortgage product that was in the system that was being targeted towards communities of color, predatory lending practices that were in place, and people getting loans at much higher rates than white families, black families making the same income in very similar situations, getting into products that were incredibly toxic. So when you look at the combination of bad products and the rising home prices that were happening at that time, people were buying at the height of the market. Really, black and brown people buying housing at the exact wrong time in the market, bubble busts, and the biggest impact has been seen in those communities.
And what we also have seen as a result, first of all, if we remember 2007, all we heard was toxic assets, toxic assets. They were talking about homes. Then when the bank bailout came, those banks used that money to shore up their bottom line, and then they held onto those homes. Mm-hmm. And then said, oh, opportunity. We're just going to hold on to these things when the economy gets better. Then you had banks partnering with hedge funds. So all of a sudden, you had these hedge funds buying up blocks of 25,000 homes in Arizona and other places. So you now have a whole bunch of people who have been forced to be renters. And there are people who actually want to be first-time home buyers who can't compete with hedge funds buying up thousands upon thousands of homes.
Yep. And so in the period, the 15 years after the crisis, you know, black homeownership rate has declined. You mentioned it. It's right around 42% now, right where it was 50 years ago when the Fair Housing Act was passed. The dynamic we saw with institutional investors and all of those that were kind of impacted by this, the banks, of course, were involved, was that there were many people being removed from their homes during this foreclosure period, and then all of a sudden you had a different problem, which was a lot of empty homes that were becoming, unattractive, blighting neighborhoods, vacancies, and then you had a lot of investment come in and buy those properties that were not repurchased by people that were going to live in them. You have a lot of property that became single-family rental, for example, and those homes, to your point, became rental assets versus being available for people to re-enter home ownership on.
So I'm reading this piece here that says, according to the Census Bureau data, black home ownership peaked at 49.1%.
That's actually a little higher than the statistics we have. In about 2004, the
this was from the census report.
Yeah, so it depends on which variation of the census you looked at and when you looked at it, but the highest it got was around 47% in 2004.
So black home ownership has never gotten above 50%.
That's correct. Wow.
And so the question now we have a different situation, massive student loan debt. You've got folks who are saying, I will never be able to own a home. What then does that do to black folks in the future?
So we truly are, and you mentioned the generational crisis. We have so many black families and households that have lost wealth over the last several decades. You have millennials and people who should be of home buying age now not buying, delaying home ownership, and not entering and building up that asset base for their household financial wealth. And it's having a ripple effect. Black home ownership is the disproportionate largest part of black wealth building in this country. It always has been. It is for whites as well. It's a big part of a white portfolio as well. But it's important to just understand that as these declines continue, and right now blacks are having the worst recovery since the crisis. Hispanic home ownership's on the rise now. Every other race is seeing rising home ownership rates since the crisis, and black home ownership rate, is continuing to be to see declines or stay stagnant. There's a lot of reasons for that. Tight credit markets, difficult to get a loan. Credit was destroyed during the crisis, so it's hard to get out of rental. Rents are crazy high because the housing stock is low on supply. So you've got rents getting higher, so it's very difficult for people to save money, don't have the money to save, can't buy a house, and don't have a family member above you that can take some equity out and give you money for cash to, down payment. Your parents can't do that for you because they don't own anything. So this is just generation after generation, that problem just gets worse and worse. So the ditch is getting dug deeper and deeper as we go through this.
Okay, so every once in a while I'll see a report that says home ownership isn't what it's all cropped up to be. Perhaps there's some circumstances for people where renting is better and perhaps owning the business. You got new tax laws now that limit what you can write off at a certain level. And so how does that play into your report going forward? Because are you still advocating for home ownership? Are you advocating for people of color to look for alternative ways of growing wealth going forward?
I think we need to advocate for both. It is a fact that historically homeownership has played a disproportionate role in black wealth. We are less so involved in retirement savings. We are less so involved in traditional savings mechanisms, stocks and bonds, and things like that. So that's just a fact of the way that our country's been built and our wealth has been built. I am absolutely a proponent of homeownership. Homeownership needs to be right. It needs to be done at the right time. It needs to be the right asset. We do need to think about, value. There's a lot of reports and work that has been done looking at black communities and the devaluation of assets in black communities. So there's a lot of factors. You need to think about the total kind of personal financial picture, how much debt you have. You mentioned student loans, taking on debt, and you can't buy a house in America today without getting a mortgage.
So I'm sitting here, I'm looking at.
So, I mean, there's all these things I think that are really important.
So hold on one second. I'm sorry. Keith Newsom on YouTube says renting is never better. renting is never better. And this is where...
Even when it's really low?
But this is where I disagree. So, for instance, so I moved to D.C. 2010. And because of this business, you don't really have, contracts. I mean, that thing. No, seriously, it's year to year. You also don't understand. You don't know what the next opportunity was. So when I moved here, we were still in that crisis mode, and I could have said, okay, sure, let me buy a house. But then again, what happens if a year or two, and all of a sudden now I'm going to move to another city? So now I'm trying to sell it, and I'm somewhere else. And then what if I can't unload it? And so I said, my wife and I said, you know what, we were just going to lease. Because for us, the value of leasing was, if it's up, we can get out of it, pack our stuff up, and move, pay a penalty. As opposed to, now I'm trying to go somewhere else, pay a down payment, trying to sell it. I might have to rent it. Now I'm a landlord. And so, but because, and the other piece is, to your point about the asset, I own my home in Dallas. Because I own it, my sister and her kids were able to move into it. Then when my parents retired, they were able to move into it. So I have now an asset that was bought for $122,000. That's now the property value is now $185,000. But I got 2 generations in my family who are living rent free, which now makes it easy for my family. And so we have to think about the home in a different way than just, well, it's just me. Now it's a generational thing to be able to help somebody, and that again, as an asset that you can actually, again, and if I decide, let's say 10, 15 years from now, and let's say my parents are 72, and when the Lord brings them home, I then still have a place that I can move into, and I only have to pay property taxes because the house is paid off. And so again, it's thinking about the home differently.
Right, that's exactly right. And listen, and it is a fact that renting there is definitely a need to have affordable rental, and there are definitely circumstances. Home ownership is not for everybody. So I just think it's really important to kind of change the mindset and make it understand that if you decide that you're going to go in that direction, thinking about, as you mentioned, Roland, the implications, how the kind of the legacy that leaves in the financial picture for your household and for your family, and ensuring that we're building up wealth, and we need to do that through asset building.
I want to unpack this again for the person sitting at home. Okay, so I'm 50. I own the home. My property taxes annually for that home, granted, is taxed, is $4,000. So which means the older I get, if I'm still working, I just got to focus on paying my monthly bills and the property taxes. It's $4,000. There's no note. The problem for a lot of us is that we're going to get older. We're still going to be paying rent on homes that might be $1,000, $1,200, and so now that impacts out the job that we have, because we're going to have that job that makes sure that makes a lot more money. And so I just want us to be thinking. I know people are saying, I'm not even thinking about owning a home, but no. We have to be thinking, when I turn 50 and 60 and 70, I might have a part-time job. That's paying the taxes. I'm good. And also, and I'll just mention, too, the stability, your rent can change and go up every single year. Immediately.
You can be asked to leave because the owner of that home wants to sell it or do something different. Owners own.
Renters have no power.
And that creates a system of instability when you're just renting. That it really is a different dynamic when you're owning, and I think that's an important
ownership piece. My family's got 2 properties that we own that are paid off, and the best thing about the ownership piece is controlling other people's rent.
Absolutely.
Basically, what's happening is you get to control, the people who come into those properties. And now with Airbnb involved in things,
that's a lot of money too. Airbnb.
This comes real quick.
Piece too.
Black people, our people of color, don't leave anything to our future generations. And I know we don't have time to get into that, but insurance products and other products beyond the house, we ought to be doing a better job at that.
And that gets to the second point, which is home ownership should not be the only way that we're building wealth.
Precisely.
And you mentioned business ownership and the need to continue to build on that and make those opportunities available. But basic retirement savings, traditional savings, getting into investing, all of those things absolutely are equally just as critical.
If I can just really quickly, as it relates to African Americans who are college graduates, what could FHA, Federal Housing Authority, do to incentivize more younger people, particularly minorities, to get into the housing market? They play a big role.
They play a huge role, a disproportionate role in serving the mortgage needs of Black people, and there's a tremendous opportunity through housing counseling services that the HUD provides, through more incentives and education around the understanding what you're getting into with low down payment products such as FHA. So I think there's a tremendous opportunity. And FHA, can I just mention this, Roland? We need FHA to be healthy. We need it to be a viable system. It critically needs funding right now. The program is down some parts of the year. I mean, the HUD funding for the FHA program is a critical piece that we strongly believe, and all the research supports, needs to be modernized and continue to be invested in and appropriated for.
And last point, real simple. Again, how you think about it differently. If you choose to look at the house as an asset, don't necessarily look at it as you buying it yourself. No, you can join with somebody else. Right. Both of you put the down payment together to purchase the home. Exactly. Again, I just for me, the most important thing that I told my financial advisor when I moved to Chicago, she said, "Are you going to sell your home in Dallas?" I was like, "Hell no." She's like, "Why?" I said, "I talk too much trash on TV to ever be homeless." Sure. I said, "No, I did." I told her, I said, by having that home and owning it, if whatever happens, I will always have a place that I can go back and I own. I can move in, 4-bedroom, 2,500 square feet. I'll be just fine. Right. And I'm not. And so
it's a different mindset.
It's giving me total. But it's giving me. And look, I had to file for bankruptcy. I almost lost the home to foreclosure. But it gives me peace of mind knowing full well that as I get older, I can move back to Texas and I own the home, and I'm not like my parents were when they retired, who moved out of a home, who moved into an apartment, this really small apartment, and were like, okay, we're about to retire. Let's move into a smaller apartment. And I was like, what the hell is smaller than this? And that's when I said, well, why don't I just pack up from Houston and move to Dallas and live in my house there? My dad was like, hold up, we can live rent-free? He said, hell, I'll take care of the house and keep it together. And 2 months later, they were gone. Yeah. But again, it's just thinking a little bit different. It is a different mindset.
And one last thing, we just recently did a study that talks about that exact thing, which is sustaining home ownership. And Black people, the statistics are just incredible, will buy a first home, sell it, and become renters at multiples more than white people do this. You're making an important point, and again, it's a change of mindset. When you get into home ownership, you need to be thinking about it differently. You need to be thinking about how this asset will appreciate, and how it might be, how it could bring you retirement security, all kinds of things that may be there, and that is just not the mindset people have. So they're more likely to sell that house in Dallas, move into a rental, not have that asset anymore, and then the next time you buy, you're going to buy a more expensive home, probably have more debt burden, and you're really hurting and harming your household wealth.
And let me say this, because this is the final point here, because I had somebody again who said, must be nice to be you, Roland. Let me be real clear.
Uh-oh, here we go.
No. Let me be real clear. 2000 Democratic National Convention, the night Al Gore accepted the nomination in Los Angeles, my appendix ruptured. I spent 5 days in a hospital in Los Angeles, 29 years old, didn't have health care because the previous job, because Cobra was way too high, okay? Lost the lease of my car as well, car got picked up. Had almost $100,000 in debt because most of that was health care costs. Filed for bankruptcy in order to actually save my home by going into bankruptcy. Paid all that off, praise the Lord, because I was able to get jobs later on. The point I'm making is, don't think for a second that, oh boy, you've had this great high income life. No. That was reality. Filing for bankruptcy in 2004, because it was precipitated when they said we could foreclose your home. I understood, again, having that asset. And so when I began to make more money, I said, I'm going to pay my financial advisor said, we're going to invest the money. I said, no, I'm going to pay the house off. Because no matter what, I have a place to live. My family has a place to live as well. And so we need to be thinking differently and having different conversations. And here's the last point, and this is critically important. Yes, I've lived in 10,000 square foot houses and moved down to a 5,000 square foot house and got no problem moving to a 2,500 square foot house.
Right.
Because, see, by adjusting your lifestyle, by changing that, I drive a Lincoln Navigator. It's 2008. It's paid off. My wife's Equinox, paid off. Why? Because the idea of not being in debt.
Right.
Debt is like having, I call them invisible shackles. And so, again, how we live our lives determines what happens next. I just want a lot of us to understand that. So when we start having these conversations, we should be talking about lifestyles, how we live, quality of life, later in life. And let me tell you something. I don't give a damn about the Joneses or nobody else. I don't care what nobody think. Because when I had a Toyota Corolla, I ain't give a damn what none of y'all thought. I would drive that Corolla because you know what? It was paid for. And I didn't care what anybody else thought. And I was making $50,000 a year doing radio. But the point is, it was paid off. For a lot of us, it's also mindset. And we got to be real honest. And that's also part of the issue. And so we're going to keep having the conversation as well. Elena, thanks a bunch. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
What's the website people can go to get more information?
Our website is www.urban.org.
All right.
Urban
Appreciate
Institute.
it. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
All right, folks. Ford Cares, one of our partners here at Roland Martin Unfiltered, and calling all HBCU alumni, students, and leaders. Enter the Ford Motor Company HBCU Mobility Challenge and win $25,000 for your school. Building on their long-term support of HBCUs, Ford is looking to improve mobility in HBCU communities through innovative solutions. The winning program will receive a grant of up to $25,000 to implement the proposal. Now, the deadline to apply is March 31st, 2019. Go to fgb.life, fgb.life for more information to apply. Folks, this is your HBCU. It's free money. All you got to do is go to the website, fgb.life, for more information. Ford goes further in our community. All right, crazy white people, roll it.
No charcoal grills are allowed.
I'm white. I got you, Carl.
Illegally selling water without a permit
On my property.
Whoa! Hey!
You don't live here.
I'm uncomfortable.
All right, y'all. We were in, you like that, Sir Michael? You like that? So we were in Selma, Alabama this weekend for Bloody Sunday commemoration. This video surfaced on social media from Alabama.
Without the Holocaust, what would the world be like?
We would have white people still. All of the niggers would not be here.
Jews would run the world without the Holocaust. Fuck niggers, fuck Jews.
Jews are fine
If the
because they're
Holocaust
white.
never happened, Jews would be running the world right now.
It's fine. We just need niggers gone. So
Think about
mix
that.
Oreos.
Think about that.
What are you gonna do with them? Awesome.
You stick it in concentration
No,
camps.
you have to. No, you have to wait till they die.
It's charging.
No, we run niggers because they do football for us and rap music, and we pay them for that.
No, they do nothing. You want to know what the fucking Democrat and like whole Republican?
How about we just kick out all the Democrats and we go on strike?
Want to take white people's money?
Now, kids from Spain Park High School near Birmingham, of course, that's where they are from. Here's what African-American, a Spain Park High School senior, Unique Simpson, told AL.com. Honestly, I'm so sick and tired of going through this same routine at Spain Park High School. I've been through so many personal experiences. This needs to stop. Now, administrators are considering disciplinary action. The incident took place off campus, but also a parent of one of the students owned a car dealership and was mortified. But you really know how your student is. Check this out. Here's video of Clear Falls High School senior Dorian Mason arrested on the charge of offending a Galveston, Texas police officer.
Damn. He got that on his chest.
I'm going to tell you when to go. I didn't do it. Keep going. I didn't stand here. We're in this whole area. You got to keep going. It's pretty clear, but I'm not friendly. I got to
cuffs. Why are they jerking him?
Y'all, according to his mom, it was at the end of Mardi Gras celebration. Kids got rowdy, and Dorian told the kids to shut the F up or we'll all get arrested. An officer was offended by Dorian's language. Did you see the handgun against his chest? His mom is fighting the fine and going to pretrial hearing on March 21st. Dorian cannot compete in track at school because of the arrest. He was offended that he used the F word to some other students.
Yeah, that's like being arrested for disorderly conduct because you argue with the police.
Or failure
Let me
to
tell you
obey.
something. It is not illegal to curse at the police, to argue with the police. You have a First Amendment right. Now, you may be subject to arrest, but it'll be hard for you to be prosecuted. But here's what the calculation you have to do in your mind, all of us do, whoever you are, is do I want an arrest record or not? Because you can get the case dismissed and even expunged, but you still have that arrest record. That is the most dangerous thing in the police and what their powers are on the street, that arrest record.
But Michael, he wasn't even talking to the cop.
Well, that's where I understand what you're saying, Scott, but I disagree. I don't think it matters what the kid said. That was unnecessary. I have a couple of firearms. I have a carry concealed for D.C. I have a carry concealed for Virginia. I carry all the time.
You think he should have been arrested for what he said to the kids?
There was no need for that police officer to have his gun as someone who shoots every week pointed at that kid's abdomen. That was absolutely unnecessary because he said, shut the up or we'll get arrested.
And,
that was over.
And Lauren, hey guys, while we kill the audio,
you're on the
please.
street,
And Lauren,
what are you going to do?
And Lauren, here's a piece. This is where you got a family cops in your family. This is where you got to have another cop say, dog, chill.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, and that to me is the problem.
Typically,
when you don't have a cop who goes, bruh, really?
Typically, on most police forces, definitely when my father came up.
Wait,
Go ahead. It was a long time ago, but they used to put like a senior cop with a younger cop, so you would have that moment where one guy turns to the other and says, "What the hell are you doing?" But the thing is, I doubt that offending a Galveston cop is in their general orders. I mean, usually the charge is failure to obey, which is sort of a catch-all.
Right,
you want to really arrest somebody.
But that wasn't even that. That wasn't even that.
But this has to be explained in court. So when they ask, the cop, etc., what happened, that's going to come out.
But this is where I need chiefs of police to go. Your ass was offended because he used the cuss.
The fraternity of police is so locked together that's unlikely.
Should honestly be suspended for a while because that was
for being stupid.
Excessive force.
But
so unnecessary.
But this is where all these cops who talk about we get criticized. This is where you use some damn common sense.
Well, when you see the smaller police forces like Galveston as opposed to, say, the federal police force, which I know a lot of cops on who are federal cops, you'll notice that you generally never see one of them involved in this sort of petty, annoying incident. We live in an area with about 8 or 9 different police jurisdictions, right?
But Roland,
it's very rare. Wait a second. It's very rare that you will see a officer involved shooting in this jurisdiction or something that's ridiculous. And there's a reason, and it is training. It is training. They,
to my point, Lauren, training.
Just real quick, but the survival techniques for people of color out here, you've got to put in the mix that you have untrained
but he was cussing at a student.
I understand.
Not even a cop.
That was stupid. But if there was no way he could do anything about that. But in other instances, you got to determine.
We ain't talking other instances. We're talking this one. In this one, he was talking to other students.
Also,
how do I know a cop is going to get offended because I use the F word?
I agree. He should not have been arrested. And it'll be caught. It'll be taught.
The kid would have just moved and the officer would have accidentally shot.
That's what I'm saying. I just said
that would have been possible.
It's just that, but again, I get go home, I get survive, but he was cussing at other students. Excuse me for offending your sensibilities. No, some of these cops need to get a damn brain and stop being so damn sensitive. But the reality is, that's where they want to arrest some black kids over some BS. All right, folks, our show is done today. I want to thank our panel for being here. Now, here's the deal. Coming up next, we're going to end this broadcast, but coming up next, we're going to play this interview of Kiah Morris. Kiah Morris was the only black woman serving in the Virginia legislature. She was forced to resign because of white supremacists who was stalking her.
Virginia or Vermont?
She was in Vermont. And here's the piece, okay, in Vermont. They really didn't do much, legislature, to deal with it. Folks, including threats against your family, somebody breaking into her house. You don't want to miss this interview because here's what she also talked about. She also talked about the issue of race in Vermont and where Senator Bernie Sanders on addressing the issue of race in Vermont. It's an interview you do not want to miss. And so again, as soon as we end this live stream, we're going to start the live stream of Kiah Morris. It's a 30-minute interview. Trust me, you want to hear this because we're talking about white privilege, white supremacy, and how white folks have got to confront their issues with race in America. Folks, you want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered, please join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar you give joining our fan club goes to making this show possible. And so please, you can give via Cash App, you can give via PayPal, but also Square. And so we want you to support this. We want to thank our sponsors for it. But again, the advertising dollars isn't enough to support what we do. Your dollars make a huge difference. And so we stand right now at about 1,400 donors. Our goal is to get, let's get to another 1,000 donors, folks, to make this possible. So we want you to join our Bring the Funk fan club by donating. Doesn't matter, $5, $10, $50. You can give monthly. You can give one payment for the year. That's fine with us. But we want to be able to have an independent voice covering the stories. And again, that housing conversation, I'm seeing a lot of your comments. You say, man, I'm not hearing that stuff somewhere else. That's why this show matters. And so please support us and spread the word to make this possible as well. Okay? I'll see you guys tomorrow. Holla! You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Hey fam, want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered, the blackest show on all of digital, cable, and broadcast. Check out our audio podcast. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Press play. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.